When I got hired at Aldi, I figured it'd be the kind of job you forget in a few years. Just something to cover rent and groceries while I got my life back on track. I had dropped out of college a few months before, burned out, broke, and barely holding it together. So when Tasha from Aldi called and said they needed someone to stock shelves overnight, I said yes before she even finished her sentence. I didn't care what it paid. I just needed something. Anything. 2 nights later, I pulled into the parking lot at 9:30 p.m., headlights cutting across an empty row of carts. The lot was quiet, except for the flickering street lamp near the exit that made this weird buzzing sound, like it couldn't decide whether it wanted to stay on or not. I sat in my car for a minute with my hands on the wheel, telling myself it was just a regular shift. Stock shelves, listen to music, stay out of the manager's way. Easy. The automatic doors opened with a lazy whoosh as I stepped inside. The store smelled like floor cleaner and cardboard. The lights overhead buzzed faintly, too bright for night, too dim for comfort. Tasha was already waiting in the back office. She was one of those people who didn't need to say much to make you straighten your spine. Tight ponytail, black fleece vest with the Aldi logo stitched clean on the chest. Sharp eyes that looked like they missed nothing. "Right on time," she said, checking her clipboard. "Come on back, we'll keep this quick." I followed her into the office and took a seat across from the desk. The onboarding packet was already laid out, just some forms, a locker key, and a sheet with emergency contacts. "You ever stocked before?" she asked, flipping through the paperwork. "Yeah, Target back home," I said. "Only for a couple months, but I got the hang of it." She nodded, like that was good enough. We went through the basics. Restock from the pallets, keep the aisles neat, avoid blocking the freezer doors. No big surprises. I was halfway through signing a stack of safety agreements when she slid a second piece of paper across the desk. "This next part's important," she said. I glanced at the sheet. It looked like it had been printed on an old inkjet printer. Slightly faded text, nothing official looking, but the title caught my eye. Night stocking rules, for after-hours customers only. I squinted at it, confused. Wait, customers? Tasha leaned back in her chair and let out a long breath through her nose. Her expression didn't change, but something about her body language shifted. Less manager, more something else. Tired. Cautious. "You won't see many," she said, "but yeah, we get a few visitors during the overnight shift, not the regular kind." She must have seen my face twist into skepticism because she raised one hand. "I know how it sounds, believe me, I thought it was some hazing thing when I first started. I laughed it off. Then I saw him." "Him?" She didn't answer, just tapped the paper again. "Read it. Memorize it. These rules will keep you safe. Most nights you won't need them, but when you do, don't hesitate." The paper was divided into 6 neat sections. Each one had a heading and a short paragraph beneath it. Tasha didn't say another word while I read. Night shift rules. 1. The penny man. If a bald man in a long brown coat approaches you holding only a single penny, take the coin without a word and let him take one item from the shelves. Do not follow him, and do not speak to him. When he's done, he'll leave on his own. 2. The cart lady. If you hear squeaky wheels around the entrance but see no one, go unlock a single shopping cart and walk away. Return to your stocking task and ignore the sounds. Later, when you find the cart full of soaking wet, rotting produce, take it to the back and throw everything out. 3. The boy with the red backpack. If you see a small boy lingering near the freezer aisle, offer him a juice pouch from the stock cart. Let him speak once. If he tries to talk again, say, "Your mother is waiting." Don't say anything else. 4. The couple in aisle 4. If a man and woman are silently standing shoulder to shoulder in aisle 4, do not interrupt them. Wait exactly 7 minutes, then use the intercom to say, "Store's closing soon." If they remain, turn off the lights in aisle 4 and leave them alone for the rest of the night. Rule 5. The woman who hums. If you hear humming near the dairy section but can't see anyone, go into the restroom and count to 60 with your eyes closed. When you come back, the humming will have stopped. 6. The man in the yellow safety vest. If a man wearing a reflective vest and holding a clipboard asks you to follow him for inventory, say you'll get the manager and walk away. Do not follow him. Do not look at the clipboard. If you see him again that night, leave the aisle immediately and stalk somewhere else. By the time I got to the last rule, I felt like the air in the room had shifted. The office was quiet, but I could hear the faint buzz of the lights and the hum of the freezer compressors through the wall. I swallowed hard. "This is a joke, right?" I asked. Tasha didn't smile. "No, it's not a joke. You'll understand when you see them, and you probably will." I looked down at the list again. The phrases felt sharp, deliberate, not written for fun, not meant to be funny. She stood and grabbed her coat from the hook behind the door. "I leave at 10. You've got the place to yourself until 6 a.m. Keep your phone charged, stay alert, and if you hear the bells at the door, check the list." I stood too, still gripping the paper. "Any advice?" Tasha paused at the doorway. "Don't panic, don't improvise, just follow the rules." And then she was gone. The clock behind me ticked past 9:58. I was alone. I grabbed a box cutter, slipped my earbuds into my pocket, and made my way toward the first pallet near aisle 3. The store looked normal. Frozen pizzas, cereal displays, rows of canned vegetables stacked neatly. Everything smelled like plastic wrap and floor polish. But under the surface, something already felt off. At exactly 10 p.m., the front door opened. The moment the door chime echoed through the store, I froze. It was soft, barely a whisper of a sound, but loud enough in the stillness to slice right through me. I turned slowly, still clutching a box of canned soup against my chest like a shield. The parking lot had been empty. No headlights, no movement. I was sure of it. But someone was standing in the doorway now. He stepped inside with slow, deliberate movements, like he had all the time in the world. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, and gaunt, with smooth, bald skin that caught the overhead lights in a strange way. He wore a long brown coat, heavy and too warm-looking for the weather, the hem of it brushing against the scuffed tile floor. In his hand, held out in front of him like an offering, was a single copper penny. I stared, my heart thudding once, twice, hard and uneven. I didn't move. The penny man. I reached into my hoodie pocket and felt the folded sheet of paper there. The rules. I hadn't memorized them yet, not word for word, but I remembered the first one. Take the coin, don't speak, don't follow. Let him take one item. I swallowed and forced myself to breathe. The man didn't say a word, just stood there, palm open, waiting. Every instinct I had screamed at me to run, to hide, to do something. But instead, I stepped forward, careful not to let the soles of my shoes squeak too loud. The coin gleamed under the fluorescent lights. I could see the year stamped on it, 1983, but nothing about it seemed remarkable. I reached out and took it. The instant my fingers closed around the penny, he lowered his hand and turned away, not sparing me another glance. No greeting, no expression, just a slow, aimless drift into the store. He walked past the frozen aisle, past the bread rack, past the pallet I'd just started unpacking. He didn't look confused or hesitant, like someone who'd wandered in by accident. But he didn't seem to have a goal either, just that same steady pace, like gravity didn't quite apply to him the same way it did to the rest of us. I stayed rooted in place, gripping the coin so tightly that the edge pressed into my palm. Do not follow him. I didn't. I stood there and watched him make his way down aisle 5. At some point, he stopped. He reached out and picked something off the shelf, just one thing, and tucked it carefully under his arm. Then he turned around and walked back the way he came, retracing his steps exactly like he was walking along an invisible line. I kept still. My knees felt locked, like if I moved now, something would notice. As he passed within a few feet of me, I got a better look at what he'd taken. It was a jar of mayonnaise. Just regular store-brand mayo. I don't know why that detail stuck with me. Maybe it was how gentle he was holding it, like it was breakable, or precious, or alive. He cradled it the way you'd hold a baby bird. Then, without a word, he left. The door gave another soft ding as it opened and closed behind him. I stood in the aisle a long time after that, still holding the penny in one hand and the box of soup in the other. The lights buzzed. Somewhere in the back, a compressor kicked on, and the silence that followed felt bigger than the building. Eventually, I forced myself to move. I put the soup back on the shelf, grabbed the pallet jack, and kept working. I tried to fall into the rhythm, cut, lift, stack, repeat, but the energy had shifted. Everything felt slightly tilted, like the whole store was leaning towards something I couldn't see. I tucked the penny into the front pocket of my jeans. I didn't know if I was supposed to keep it. The rule didn't say. But part of me wasn't ready to let go of it. It was real. It had weight. It meant that what I'd just seen wasn't a hallucination or some weird prank. That man, whatever he was, had been here. And I'd followed the rule. And now I had proof. By 10:30, I had made decent progress. Aisle 3 was stocked and faced. The cereal boxes were lined up like soldiers, and the canned soup was finally in order. The penny stayed in my front pocket the whole time. Every so often, I'd reach in just to touch it, like I needed to confirm it was still there, and that the bald man with the long brown coat had actually happened. The store had gone quiet again. No footsteps, no bell. No sounds outside except for the hum of the parking lot lights filtering through the glass doors. I almost started to relax, almost, and then I heard it. Squeak, squeak, squeak. I stiffened, halfway through opening a new case of applesauce cups. The sound came from the front entrance, metal wheels turning slowly. Uneven. A high-pitched groan that dragged along the tile in lazy intervals, like someone pushing a cart with a sticky wheel. I peeked around the end cap. The entrance area was empty, but the sound continued. Squeak, squeak, squeak. It was her, the cart lady. The rule came back to me in pieces. If you hear squeaky wheels but see no one, go unlock a single shopping cart and walk away. Return to your stocking task. Later, when the cart fills with rotting produce, take it to the back and throw it out. I didn't hesitate this time. I jogged up to the corral near the entrance, unlocked the first cart I saw, and gave it a gentle shove so it rolled out an inch from the others. I didn't look around, didn't call out, just walked away. I made myself focus on the applesauce, arranging the rows, tearing down the empty box, flattening it. I worked faster than I should have. My hands moved with this nervous, jerky rhythm, but I didn't stop. The wheels stopped squeaking behind me. That should have been good. But I was too jumpy, too wired. Because a few minutes later, there was a crash. A heavy, messy sound, like something tipping over and hitting the floor hard. My stomach dropped. I should have ignored it. I should have known better. But instincts don't always listen to rules. Especially not when something loud happens in a silent building and you're the only one inside. I walked back toward the front, and there it was. The cart I'd unlocked was now sitting beside the bread rack, angled oddly, like it had rolled itself there and stopped. It was overflowing with vegetables, if you could call them that anymore. Heads of lettuce that had turned black and slimy, zucchinis bloated and gray, carrots so twisted and mold-covered that they looked like roots from a swamp. Everything in the cart was soaked, wet, dripping. The floor beneath the cart was streaked with some kind of brown-green liquid that smelled like rot and mildew. It curled at the edges of my nostrils, sharp and earthy, like rainwater left too long in a clogged drain. I froze, staring at it. I'd broken the rule. I hadn't gone back to my stalking task immediately. I'd listened. I'd followed the noise. I'd walked right into it like an idiot. The air grew colder around me. That's the only way I can describe it. 1 second it was normal, and the next I felt this shift, a sudden chill that crawled up my arms and across the back of my neck. I hadn't noticed it at first, but the entrance doors were still shut. No wind, no open vents, no reason for the air to feel like it dropped 10 degrees in an instant. Then I felt it again. A breeze, cold and unnatural, gliding down the aisle behind me like something had just brushed past at head height. I didn't look. I grabbed the sticky, rusted handle of the cart and shoved it toward the back as fast as I could without letting it tip over. The wheels squeaked again. This time, I didn't care how loud it was. I just kept moving. When I reached the back hallway, I pushed the cart through the employee door and into the waste area, yanking open the industrial bin and dumping everything out without bothering to sort it. The smell hit me harder then. Rancid cabbage, onion sludge, something sweet and curdled. My stomach turned. I didn't throw up, but it was close. I slammed the lid shut and backed away, wiping my hands on my hoodie even though I hadn't touched anything directly. I looked around. No one was there. No sound, no footsteps. Just that cold feeling lingering around my shoulders, like something invisible had followed me all the way back and was still deciding if it should stay. I stood in the break room for a while after that, staring at the time clock and counting the seconds in my head. I had followed most of the rule. I'd unlocked the cart. I hadn't spoken. I'd eventually thrown the produce out. But it hadn't been fast enough. And something had noticed. Something new. I didn't go back to the front of the store for a long time after that. By midnight, I had managed to convince myself it was almost over. 3 more hours, I told myself. Then the sun would start to rise. Then people would show up. Then all of this, whatever this was, would lose its grip. I kept my head down and moved faster. Stocked dry pasta, lined up the paper towels, stacked soup cans like my life depended on it. The faster I worked, the less I had to think about that smell still lingering in the back room, or the way the cold breeze in aisle 1 had felt too deliberate. I hadn't taken a break. At 12:02 a.m., the door chimed again. My spine went stiff. I looked up from the juice pallet, every muscle tight and buzzing with nerves. A little boy stood just inside the entrance. He couldn't have been more than 8 or 9, with messy hair and pale skin that looked almost gray under the flickering lights. A red backpack hung from his shoulders, too full, like it was packed for a long trip. He shuffled forward on small, silent feet, eyes wide as he glanced around the store. I froze. I didn't move toward him. I didn't call out. I just stared for a second, because something about him felt not wrong, exactly, but misplaced. Like a picture hung just slightly crooked. The boy with the red backpack. My hands fumbled for the stock cart. I scanned it frantically until I spotted a pack of juice pouches wedged behind a box of snack bars. I grabbed one apple flavor and stepped into the aisle as calmly as I could manage. His head turned toward me immediately. No smile, no fear either, just this quiet curiosity that made my skin crawl. I walked slowly, holding out the juice pouch like a peace offering. He took it with both hands and looked up at me. "Thank you," he said softly. "That was it. Just once. Let him speak once. If he tries again, say, 'Your mother is waiting.' Do not say anything else." I nodded, stepping back, already trying to put distance between us. I was almost in the clear when he looked down at the pouch again and asked, "Do you have any cereal too?" It was a small voice, a normal question. One any kid might ask, but my chest locked up instantly. His eyes flicked back to mine, waiting. I swallowed and forced the words out. "Your mother is waiting." He blinked, like he was just then waking up from a nap. Then he gave a tiny nod, turned toward the freezer aisle, and walked away. He didn't leave through the front. I never saw the door open again. He just drifted behind the rows of frozen vegetables and never came back out. I stood there with my pulse pounding in my ears. He was gone. I stayed frozen for a few more minutes, unsure if I'd done it right, unsure if something had changed again. That part of the store felt colder now, like he had taken something with him, or left something behind. Eventually, I made myself move. I went back to the juice cart and started stacking boxes, hands shaking a little. I didn't stop working, didn't go looking for him, didn't call out. I didn't want to find him. And more than that, I didn't want him to find me. By 12:30 a.m., I was tired. Not in the physical way. I'd done harder shifts, heavier lifting, longer hours. This was different. My hands were still working, but my brain was stretched thin. It felt like something was watching from behind every end cap. Like I had to check the mirrors on the coolers twice before walking past them. Even the background music had stopped, leaving only the low mechanical hum of the store's lights and refrigeration systems. That's when I passed aisle 4, and I stopped cold. They were there. A man and a woman, both facing the same shelf, standing shoulder to shoulder, completely still. They weren't shopping, they weren't moving, they weren't doing anything. I took a shaky breath and backed up a step, just enough to hide behind the stacked paper towels on the pallet beside me. The couple in aisle 4. Do not interrupt them. Wait exactly 7 minutes. Then use the intercom to say, "Store's closing soon." If they remain, turn off the lights in aisle 4 and leave them alone for the rest of the night. I pulled out my phone and opened the clock app, tapping the screen to start the timer. 7 minutes. I could wait that long. I could handle this. I'd handled worse tonight, but I couldn't stop watching them. They didn't twitch, didn't lean, didn't even breathe, as far as I could tell. Their clothes were plain, neutral colors, no logos. They could have been mannequins if not for how completely wrong they felt, the way they belonged and didn't at the same time. At minute 6, I stood slowly and took a step toward the back hallway where the intercom panel was mounted on the wall. I reached it at 6:58, perfect timing. But my hand was shaking. I reached for the button, pressed it. Nothing. The mic didn't activate. I must have hit the wrong one. I tried again. Still nothing. My fingers fumbled over the panel as the seconds slipped away. And then, as the timer hit 7 minutes, I looked back. Both of them had turned their heads. Not quickly, just slowly, synchronized. Their faces were expressionless, their necks bent in unison, eyes locked straight onto mine from all the way down the aisle. My knees buckled, I turned and ran. I didn't bother with the intercom again. I didn't try the lights. I didn't even finish stocking that side of the store for the rest of the shift. I kept to the other aisles and pretended aisle 4 didn't exist. But I felt them there, standing and staring. They weren't leaving. And I wasn't going back. I was crouched behind the dry goods pallet sometime around 1:15 when I first heard the humming. It was soft at first, so faint I thought it might have been in my head. But then it got louder, a low, breathy melody, slow and old. The kind of lullaby someone might hum to themselves when they thought no one was listening. It came from near the dairy section, winding through the milk fridges and down past the eggs. The woman who hums. If you hear humming near the dairy section but can't see anyone, go into the restroom and count to 60 with your eyes closed. When you come back, the humming will have stopped. That was the rule. And I knew it. But I didn't follow it. I don't know why. Maybe I was sick of running. Maybe I was too shaken from the last encounter to think straight. Or maybe I was just too damn curious for my own good. I took one step toward the dairy section, then another. The humming got louder, more deliberate, like whoever it was knew I was getting closer. "Hello?" I said quietly. The sound stopped. I blinked, and I was somewhere else. Not physically, I was still in the store, but it wasn't where I had just been. I was standing near the wine shelf now, several aisles over. I didn't remember walking there. Didn't remember turning around. My hands were wet. I looked down and saw condensation clinging to my skin, like I'd reached into one of the freezer bins without realizing it. My hoodie sleeves were damp, too. Cold, heavy. A chill went straight down my spine. I turned and bolted for the restroom. Once inside, I locked the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. The fluorescent light overhead buzzed louder than usual. I sat on the closed toilet lid, closed my eyes, and started counting out loud. 1, 2, 3. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. By the time I reached 60, the humming was gone. But I stayed there for a while anyway, just to be sure. And for the first time that night, I really truly wondered if I'd make it until morning. By 4:30, I was running on fumes. I hadn't sat down since the break room. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't touched my phone unless I needed the clock. The store felt like it was holding its breath. Still and quiet, but only because something was waiting. Every shadow looked too dark. Every reflection too crisp. I stayed away from aisle 4. I didn't go near the dairy section. I made sure every move I made followed the list. I wasn't taking any more chances. That lasted until 4:44 a.m. The number stuck out when I saw it on the display in the back room. I don't know why. Maybe because of the way all the digits matched. Maybe because of how wrong everything already felt. I had just started stocking the cereal aisle when I heard a cough behind me. Not loud. I turned slowly. A man stood at the end of the aisle. He wore a yellow safety vest over a navy work shirt and black pants. He held a clipboard in one hand, casually resting it against his hip. His other hand was tucked into his vest pocket like he'd been standing there a while. He smiled. It was the kind of smile that made the air feel thinner, too wide, too friendly, like he knew something I didn't. Like he owned something I hadn't realized was missing. "Inventory check," he said. "Come with me?" My mouth went dry. The man in the yellow safety vest. "If he asks you to follow him, say you'll get the manager and walk away. Do not follow. Do not look at the clipboard. If you see him again, leave the aisle immediately." I tried to keep my voice steady. "I'll get the manager," I said, already stepping back. His smile twitched, just slightly. "Wait," he said. I turned away. But I made a mistake. I looked back. I don't know why. Reflex, maybe? A part of me needing to see if he was still standing there, to see if he'd followed. And that's when I saw the clipboard. There were rows of names scribbled down in uneven handwriting. Dozens of them, maybe more. Each one had 2 columns next to it. The second column was labeled expiration. And next to my name was a date. Today's date. The man's smile widened like he'd been waiting for me to see it. Then he stepped forward. Each step too smooth, too silent. His boots didn't make a sound on the floor. I turned and ran. Boxes crashed behind me as I knocked over a display. I rounded the corner of the chip aisle, heart pounding so hard it echoed in my ears. I didn't scream. I didn't even breathe. He was behind me now. I could feel it, feel the air shift as he moved through the store. I ducked past the registers, sprinted down aisle 1, then cut behind the coolers toward the employee hallway. But he was faster. I heard nothing. No footsteps, no breath. But every time I looked over my shoulder, he was closer. He didn't run. He didn't need to. I slipped. Something wet. A smashed tomato from a restock bin, maybe. Whatever it was, it sent me skidding sideways, my shoulder hitting the metal shelf before I crashed to the floor. My head struck the tile. Everything went black. I woke up to soft sunlight bleeding through the front windows. The store was quiet again, the normal kind of quiet, morning quiet, peaceful, safe. Tasha knelt beside me, eyes wide, hands gripping my shoulders. "Jesus, you okay?" she asked. I blinked at her, dazed. My mouth felt like cotton. What time is it?" "Almost 10, she said. "I came early, had a weird feeling. Found you on the floor, you must have slipped." She helped me to my feet. My whole body ached like I'd been thrown off a building. But I was upright, I was breathing, I was alive. I tried to explain, tried to form words that would make sense of the night. But then the front door dinged. We both turned. A little boy stepped inside. Red backpack, juice pouch in hand, in broad daylight. He smiled up at us and asked, "Can I have some cereal now?"